Hi everyone, I'm Yunus. Welcome to the second episode of the Product Man podcast. Today we're going to talk about a topic I really love. How does a product manager's day pass? But of course, we won't be talking about the theoretical stuff written in books. We will talk about the chaos, the rush, the crisis moments, the enjoyable times, and the team dynamics experienced in real life. It's all in this episode. If you're ready, let's start. Hello again. Before we start, I want to explain some concepts. What is a product manager? What is agile? Where does Scrum come from? Product management is actually not a new profession. It always existed. It just didn't have a name. There have always been people who took ownership of a product, took responsibility, and determined its direction. The story of Scrum is actually quite funny. A few guys and gals got together and said, "These software processes are too chaotic. Let's bring some order to this." The basic principles of Scrum emerged like this: short sprints, few meetings, clear roles, fast feedback, and continuously creating value for the user. The Agile Manifesto was written in a ski lodge in 2001. Yes, really, in a ski lodge. 17 people gathered and said, "Friends, the process is too bureaucratic, let's simplify it." It's that sincere of a story. And finally, I want to share a definition from the product book. A product manager is the person who builds a bridge between the problem and the solution. It's such a simple, yet equally difficult role. I want to talk to you about a product manager's morning routine. Of course, this will be based on my own experience. We said morning routine, but sometimes this can be a night routine. For example, if a deployment is planned for the night, or if you wake up to support a friend, or if a crisis occurs, you might be woken up at night. The bad part is sometimes you are asked to wake others up too. I realize these don't sound very pleasant, but let's say, he who loves the rose must bear its thorns. To keep the product alive and healthy, you have to make these sacrifices if we come back to a routine morning. In most professions, what do you do first when you wake up? You wash your face, go to the kitchen to prepare coffee or tea. Then you have breakfast. Maybe you exercise. Finally, you open your computer and focus on your work. But for a product manager, this process actually starts with picking up the phone in bed. You start working from your phone before opening your computer. Has there been any crisis during the night? What messages were sent to you? Where were you mentioned? You check these immediately. Dozens of unread messages will be waiting for you. Briefly, after reading these, if there is no crisis, you can go and drink your coffee in peace. Then you can sit at the computer and continue your routine planning. But if there is a crisis, of course, you can't even drink that coffee without solving it. Unfortunately, the number of these days is not few. Then comes the prioritization you need to make among these messages. I think the most important trait of a product manager is prioritization. Which message will you read first? Which one will you reply to first? Which meeting will you attend first? You need to prioritize all of these. How do you do this prioritization? There are some methods in the book, but to summarize simply, which is more urgent, which creates a higher impact, which is just for information, which concerns you directly. You make these checks and determine the destiny of the day. Of course, your morning routine doesn't end there. Sometimes there may be no issues in the messages coming from people, but you must always look at your best friend, the data. You must check the predetermined metrics, for example, conversion rate, cart abandonment rate, crash rate of the last deploy. If there is no anomaly, you can start your day with ease. But if there is any anomaly, the color of the business changes there. You need to put the relevant teams on alarm, identify the problems, and bring solutions. At this point, your plans turn upside down, and you cannot start any planned work without solving that problem. Briefly, this is a product manager's morning routine. I mentioned the planned day earlier. The first official event of the planned day is the daily stand-up meeting. You can think of the daily stand-up as a meeting where people tell each other every morning what they will do that day, what they did yesterday, what difficulties they faced, and report if there are any problems to the product manager. It should be a short meeting, but sometimes it drags on. Someone mentions a problem. Someone else states their opinion on that problem, and this starts to lengthen in a chain reaction. At that point, The product manager's duty is to prevent the daily from lengthening like this and to arrange a separate meeting with the necessary people to solve the problem. Of course, for a product manager, the daily is not just a meeting about what we did yesterday, what we will do today. The purpose of the daily is actually to understand the mood of the team. We detect these. Is the sprint progressing healthily? Is anyone stuck? Is there a risk? Is the team tired? Has motivation dropped? The daily is the vital place where you can analyze and detect all of these. So I can say this: the daily is actually an early warning system for a product manager. For example, a developer says to you, a task that looked simple yesterday turned out to be complex due to a dependency. This means your sprint plan will slip. The work of the next team waiting for this development will be delayed. You will have to explain this to the stakeholders. In real life, the number of dailies is never just one. If you look at Scrum books, there is one daily every day, 15 minutes, short and clear. But in real life, based on my experience, we can talk about different dailies like product daily, tech daily, or project daily. Scrum theory is minimal, but in practice, life forces you because things are not solved with a single daily. That's why product managers find themselves running from meeting to meeting during the day. And yes, none of this is written in the Scrum book. You finished your daily meeting. What's next? Of course, a meeting marathon awaits you. This is actually the visible part of product managers in the company. They see you as the person who holds meetings. The most popular joke about product managers is that their job is to hold meetings. Yes, this is true. But these are not empty meetings, of course. The product manager is actually orchestrating in these meetings. To give an example, the first ones that come to my mind are design meetings. In these meetings, you are in the kitchen of user experience. You discuss user flows and edge cases. You look at where the user gets lost in the flow. Sometimes you spend 20 minutes discussing whether a button should be on the right or the left. But you continue to discuss patiently because you know that the location of that button will increase the conversion rate by 2%. Secondly, technical meetings. We play a bit of a translator role here. For example, the developer tells you the API request is entering a loop because the cache is not refreshing. You cannot transfer this to the business side like this. What you tell the business side is, friends, the system is slowing down, so users might be waiting at the payment screen. Let's take precautions accordingly. Another type of meeting, I think one of the most important ones, is stakeholder meetings. We can call this our political stage. Everyone wants their own priority to be prioritized. Marketing wants rapid growth. Operations wants process optimization. Finance wants to reduce costs. The partner team wants a new integration. The single tech team that basically does all the work wants to pay off their technical debt. As a product manager, what you need to do here is to take on the role of a top diplomat, protect your roadmap, reduce conflict, and explain to everyone what the prioritizations are based on. Of course, doing meetings is not the only thing you have to do. You need to prepare for those meetings. For example, preparing your roadmap, writing the problem definition, preparing the PRD, analyzing KPI charts, and examining UX flows. Finding the time to do these is like finding water in a desert for a product manager. You try to do these in the very little time you have between meetings, or you postpone it to the evening, or you try to do them in the background during a meeting. Plans meeting, it might sound intense, but I am 100% sure that a product manager would prefer these activities over a crisis. But a crisis will definitely appear even if it's small. A bug appears in production. It's a red alarm. A Slack message comes. There is a problem in prod. Users cannot log in. The firefighter inside the PM stands up and does their best to put out the fire. I think one of the most important traits of a product manager is to remain calm during crises. Impact analysis, syncing with the tech team, informing the necessary people, informing the stakeholders. To give an example, imagine a payment error. Card payments are not going through. This means you cannot receive orders every minute. The product manager evaluates, impact is high, priority changes. Solving this problem becomes the priority. Revenue loss is reported to management. Users are informed via support coordination, solution, rollback, or a quick patch, meaning you can take back the development you made or apply a quick fix. How successfully you manage this process actually shows how successful you are as a product manager. Afternoon speed up. Here, a PM needs to show their multitasking muscles, evaluating features, answering technical questions, giving design feedback, doing new variant analysis, meeting a campaign request, updating the roadmap. We have to do all of these at the same time. While doing these operations, our closest friend is data. It is our compass. We use it in analytical routines like KPI checks, funnel analysis, and dashboard interpretation. Data analysis is a very important muscle for a PM. But data is not just numbers. A product manager always tries to extract a pattern from data. Data is a story, and the product manager's duty is to solve this story. A product manager must know every role as much as a junior. You must be able to write SQL like a junior data analyst. You must be able to draw mockups like a junior designer. You must be able to do basic tests like a QA. You must understand technical constraints like a developer. It's truly a profession of wearing many hats. The people a product manager contacts are also very different. One morning you are in the warehouse talking to a picker, examining the physical flow of the product. The same afternoon, you have a meeting with the CEO. This rapid adaptation is the product manager's superpower. For a product manager, the day actually starts in the evening. For most people, the workday ends at 5 or 6. But for product, it starts just then, because Slack notifications decrease, meetings end, nobody asks anything, and your mind clears. A product manager does their big work during these hours. Roadmap updates, writing tasks, data analysis, thinking about the sprint plan. These are the real production hours. Finally, product management is more than a profession. Sometimes it is tiring, sometimes lonely, sometimes stressful, but it is always educational. At the end of the day, you think, I solved something today and thousands of users will notice it. I think that's what makes PMing special.